Welcome back to another entry of Christie's newsletter, read by Killian Murphy. The past 2 years made it nearly impossible for me to keep up with my daily reading challenge. Truth is, I'm quite a slow reader, regardless of the book. Still, now that this year seems 1,000 times brighter, I've made a promise to read at least 15 books. 15 books a year? I thought you were an avid reader. I read that in a month. Well, this isn't a competition, and like I said, I'm not exactly the fastest reader. I'd rather savor each page than rush through the story. I kicked off my challenge by rereading Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. In February, I tackled The Killing Woods by Lucy Christopher, and in March, our topic for today, it was Women Who Love Too Much by Robin Norwood. When being in love means suffering, we're loving too much. When we excuse their bad moods, indifference or disregard as childhood trauma, and try to become their therapist, we're loving too much. From the prologue, The Tale of Banshee. It all begins with a woman we'll call Banshee, weeping lady, with long, unkempt hair. That wildly neglected mane was only a reflection of what a year and a half had done to her spirit. Her eyes, shaded by her black fringe, drooped like the corners of her lips. Her gaze was as clouded as the gray sky she had to stare at every day, dragging herself out the door just to survive. That Banshee wandered the streets of O'Connell in Dublin, Ireland, her tears falling like warnings on the pavement, not warnings of death, but of pride, peace of mind, and a love that was slowly dying. She was a candle, burnt down by a poisonous love. Banshee had fallen blindly for a fallen angel, or so she thought. In time, she realized he was nothing more than a wolf in sheep's clothing, an emotional vampire, a leech feeding off her energy, her luck, her will to live. A beast. One ordinary afternoon, she crossed O'Connell Bridge and stood staring into the River Liffey. 2 minutes passed, then 5. She cursed the fading light, her own bad luck, her naivete. She cursed the way she had allowed that love to devour her whole. She understood she was trapped in a frozen hell, a place where she had learned to hate herself, to depend, to vanish. And yet, somewhere deep in her memory, the image of her parents, her family, the dreams she'd buried long ago, still lingered. She remembered loving cinema, literature, writing, drawing. But she hadn't touched any of those things in ages. Her time and money disappeared into bottomless holes, trying to buy affection, stay afloat, fill the void. That was when she decided to seek help. A simple decision, in theory, yet colossal for her. She had never been to therapy. The few times she'd tried speaking to a school counselor, she had run off before uttering anything real. Even so, she accepted a trial session. "Hello, Banshee, how are you?" asked the therapist from the other side of the world. "I'm fine." She lied. Silence followed. Perhaps they both expected the question to spark something. But it didn't. Not yet. "What do you enjoy doing?" "Well, I suppose I like film, reading, writing, drawing. But I don't really do any of that anymore. I don't like it as much now." They talked about the weather, about food, about Ireland. And then, at last, the real reason came out. "I'm having a lot of problems with my boyfriend. We're hurting each other. I love him deeply, but this isn't right anymore. I don't know what to do." The therapist asked for his name, then asked what it was that made them hurt each other so much. And that's when Banshee opened her mouth and didn't close it for nearly 40 minutes. She told the entire story, from the very first month to that day. Her voice cracked halfway through. The tears arrived, as they always did, uninvited. She had to stop just to breathe. The therapist said nothing, just kept writing down everything Banshee whispered between sobs. Sobbed even harder when she reached the parts that were still happening in the present. She spoke of how it felt when he was unfaithful, how she reacted when he wounded her with words. She tried, desperately, to avoid the temptation of victimhood. And the more she spoke, the more she seemed to take responsibility for her own actions, slowly peeling away the guilt from his shoulders and placing it on her own. When Banshee finally fell silent, it took her a while to gather herself. It was then that the therapist looked up from her notes and asked, "Banshee, since you used to enjoy reading, have you ever come across a book called Women Who Love Too Much? It's a self-help book." She shook her head at once. "I think you should read it. It might help," the therapist continued. "It's about women who love their partners more than they love themselves, who put them first and abandon their own needs." Banshee nodded, recognizing herself in the description. She placed a hand over her chest and, almost disturbingly, said with passion that she would lie down in the middle of the road, rip her heart out and hand it to him if he asked. That alone proved the therapist's point. But Banshee didn't see it. Not yet. Their second session turned out to be the last. Banshee was already packing her things to run away again, crying in the only way she knew how. No need to clarify now that I was Banshee, wandering with the weight of my shattered soul, and my love cupped in both hands. My pain in my face was not a performance. When I returned to Mexico, to the warmth of home, everything seemed fine. Life smiled at me, or so I wanted to believe. Yet I would wake up crying every night. I couldn't sleep without being dragged back into the same nightmare over and over again. The beast hurting me, crushing my chest, convincing me I'd never escape. The urge to become who I used to be became as vital as breathing, so I booked an appointment with Annetta, my second therapist that year. After I told her about the beast, how hard I had fought to fix a relationship that only destroyed me, she looked at me gently and said, "I'm going to recommend you a book. I don't know if you've heard of it. Women Who Love Too Much by Robin Norwood." I wiped my tears and nodded. Yes, I had heard of it. My best friend's mother had mentioned it too. Still, I couldn't shake the skepticism. Self-help books always seemed like empty formulas to me, magical recipes that rarely work. Denial. I used to think self-help books were useless. But if encyclopedias, novels, even magazines can teach you something, why couldn't a book written explicitly to help someone heal? Thanks to Robin Norwood's book, I realized I wasn't weak or stupid for staying in a love that only brought me sorrow. Robin helped me understand that what I experienced was a psychological process triggered by manipulation. A catastrophic love is like a needle to a heroin addict. The more it consumes you, the harder it is to escape. And when you try to quit, the withdrawal hurts more than the love itself ever did. What kept me tied to the beast weren't the arguments. It was everything that came after. The sleepless nights of reconciliation, the flowers, the kisses on my eyelids, pizza Tuesdays with video games. Each of those gestures arrived just after the damage, the pointless fights, the coldness, the indifference, the disinterest. Even when things seemed fine, I waited for the next thing to go wrong, to cry again, to confront him again, to threaten to leave again, just to fall into his arms once more and be gifted all that tenderness again. And still, every time he did something to push me away, I responded with even more love, as though I had to remind him, prove to him how worthy I was. Like any woman who loves too much, I tried to understand why he behaved the way he did. I excused his behavior by looking to his past. The beast was a wounded man, an absent mother, the kind who teaches that crying solves nothing. 2 ex-girlfriends who, according to him, had used and discarded his kindness. I never thought he could drag me into the darkness, but when he discovered the power he held over me, he never hesitated to use it. For a long time, I chose to believe, for the sake of my own survival, that he didn't mean to hurt me. I convinced myself his constant need to make me doubt, to shrink me, came from a shattered self-esteem. And I, in that blind devotion, was willing to help him piece himself back together. As chapter 2 of the book says, we want to be the ones who break the spell, who set that man free from what we see as his captivity. We interpret his emotional unavailability, his anger or depression, his cruelty or indifference, his dishonesty or addiction, as signs he's not yet been loved enough. We pit our love against his flaws, his weaknesses, even his pathology. We are willing to save him through the power of our love. So, if the beast had an unhealthy obsession with pornography, I assumed it was because he needed to see women more attractive than me. And that was my fault for gaining weight. If he spoke to other women, called them pretty, or asked them out, that too was my fault for not being young enough, exciting enough. And if I confronted him, heart in hand, and he replied with a sigh, a roll of the eyes, and then walked out, I still blamed myself for overreacting. Even though I worshipped the ground he walked on, I felt guilty for not loving him enough to make him change. Worse still, I felt guilty for not being enough to make him love me in return. But was it really love? I can't speak for him. I never knew what he truly felt. From the beginning, he made it clear he didn't see me as someone he'd wait for at the altar. But I was far too blind to understand. Not that it matters now. I've long stopped wondering whether he ever loved me at all. What I do know is that I fell hopelessly in love with the beast on the 15th of December, 2022. It was a morning we spent together, a date at the Christmas market, the laughter, the way he looked at me, the ring he bought me, the carousel, the moment he dropped me off at work. He broke my heart many times after that. But the day he shattered my soul, my spirit, my love, and extinguished the light in my eyes entirely was 8th November 2023. That day, something didn't just break inside me. Everything broke. My pride, my beauty, my sense of self, my love for life, my peace, my dignity, my sanity, all of it ruined. I became a shadow, a hollowed out version of myself. I died that day. And the most ironic part? The only person who could make me smile again was the very same one who had stolen that smile in the first place. It was a cold, invisible pain that weakens you shaves off parts of you until you no longer know how to piece yourself back together. Everything hurt. The beast and I didn't officially break up until February 2024. And yes, I know what many people might be thinking. If you didn't love him anymore, if he hurt you so much, why did you stay another 4 months? I didn't understand it either, not until it all made sense in chapter 9. I was unwell. At the same time that this man is disappointing her and failing her, she becomes emotionally dependent on him. This is because she has focused entirely on him, his problems, his well-being, and, perhaps most importantly, his feelings towards her. The more I tried to change him, the more he consumed me. He became the source of every good thing in my life. Making the relationship work became my obsessive priority. When he was happy, I was happy. He was my dose of endorphins. And that place, the one that was supposed to bring me joy, was the very thing killing me. I always believed that in a relationship, love could fix anything. And he fed that fantasy. He told me we could grow together, that we could build something stronger. It wasn't just me, pleading constantly, begging to be loved. He fueled the delusion with phrases like, "You're the love of my life. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love, you're not God, but you're the closest thing to him. I don't want to hurt you or make you cry. I want to be with you and make you happy. You make me the happiest man in the world. I won't let you go." And if my hopelessly romantic soul, hungry for affection, received those words right when I needed them most, was it really so foolish to believe he loved me back just as deeply? At the time, no. Now, yes, because his actions never changed. And with every disappointment, a piece of me crumbled. So the answer is no. I didn't love him anymore, but I was obsessed with the idea of still being loved, with changing him, with saving him. I confused that obsession with unconditional love. I mistook addiction for passion, until I started thinking I was going mad. Love and hate. Annette suggested I see a psychiatrist after pointing out the emotional extremes I'd experienced all my life. I was filled with rage whenever I thought of the beast, and yet he was the person I loved more than anything in the world. He was the center of my universe. I revolved entirely around him. He was the sun, and I could only shine when he touched me, smiled at me, looked at me. Annette said the word borderline, a term I had tried to ignore since the moment I first heard it. I was terrified of the idea that I might be living with something I didn't understand, something still so new, so misunderstood. But women who loved too much made me question whether my obsession with love and with the potential I thought I saw in him was truly borderline at all, or whether it came from something else entirely, the Bell syndrome. Ever since I can remember, Disney taught me that true beauty lies within, that even if someone intimidates you, locks you away, or behaves like an arrogant animal, there is always a flicker of goodness waiting to be saved. A heart that just needs love to transform. My beast was not attractive. His rough features clashed with strangely delicate lips and eyes. He had long lashes, odd dimples, chipped teeth, and a level of hygiene that left much to be desired. He barely slept. He was chaos in human form. People often ask me how I ended up with someone like him, and I know the answer. I don't need excuses. We were both lonely. He was broken. So was I. Two lost souls wandering a foreign country, far from home, far from the warmth of family. What we had in common was a twisted sense of humor that made us laugh when the world felt like it was falling apart. And laughter, even when fleeting, can feel dangerously like happiness. He was the only familiar thing in that emotional winter, and I was his escape hatch. Every time he withdrew, every time he built another wall, I stepped closer. I offered another sliver of my light, as if I could illuminate his shadows with mine. But in the end, he did to me exactly what others had done to him, and worse. The final straw came when everything turned physical, when the possibility of never seeing Mexico's blue skies again became a real threat. The beast could have killed me. The next morning, he asked for forgiveness. I nodded, but I didn't mean it. He cried. "Why are you crying?" I asked. "Because I thought you'd leave me, that you wouldn't forgive me." I stayed silent. In that moment, I knew I could never forgive him for that night. I knew it would take a long time before I could stop hearing my own screams in the dark. But the most terrifying thing wasn't the betrayal. It wasn't even the fear that it might happen again. It wasn't that he didn't loosen his grip when I pretended to pass out. The most terrifying thing was knowing that, despite all of that, I still couldn't leave him. I was trapped. Nothing could pull me away from him until something did. "Thank you, beast," I whispered days later. "If you hadn't done it, I never would have been able to. Thank you for setting me free." And I ran, like Belle fleeing the cursed castle. Scientific explanation. You've probably heard someone say, when you're in a toxic relationship, you lose your mind. Or, you're not yourself anymore. Well, it's literal. Prolonged manipulation can affect your brain so deeply that it alters the way you think, feel, and perceive reality. When your environment is hostile, your brain switches to survival mode. It adapts. It tries to cope. That's called cognitive dissonance. A fancy name for your brain's way of trying to make two conflicting realities make sense. So your mind begins to normalize abuse simply because that's what it knows. It says things like, "He shouted because he was stressed. He didn't mean to hurt me. I overreacted too." Even if it causes you pain, your brain will try to sweeten the poison. And then it becomes a cycle. Pain, reconciliation, hope, disappointment, pain. That emotional roller coaster messes with your brain chemistry. It triggers dopamine highs and cortisol crashes. Your brain starts associating the relief of making up with love, even if the relief comes after immense suffering. And that relief becomes addictive. You're not addicted to love. You're addicted to the momentary relief after the pain. But the pain always comes first. When someone gaslights you, blames you, or punishes you with silence, your brain stays in a constant state of alert. That drains your energy, causes anxiety, and wrecks your memory, focus, and decision-making skills. And little by little, you start to doubt yourself constantly, feel useless or capable of doing anything, lose trust in your thoughts, isolate yourself because none understands, make them your only source of truth, your only reference, your prison with a view, Manipulation feeds on your empathy, and playing the savior is soul-destroying, because while you're busy loving better, they're still hurting you, and you keep blaming yourself for failing to fix them. It makes you see trauma as love. It convinces you that the solution is to love more, when in truth, what you really need is to get out, where I am now. For the longest time, I truly believed I loved the beast more than anything in the world. I even told him, without a flicker of doubt, that I loved him more than cinema and literature combined. Now I can't help but ask myself, what on earth was I thinking? There's nothing I love more than cinema. Nothing. And literature too. They've always been my great loves. And now, finally, they are once more. I'm so glad I've found my way back to them. What I've written today leaves me with the bitter taste of an ugly memory, but not the memory of what was. I mean the memory of what a glimpse of his soul once made me feel. A song we both liked, a cartoon that kept us up at night, the smell of Ireland. This book helped me understand myself, recognize my addiction, and see that there are women who choose themselves, and in doing so, they heal. These are the lessons that struck me the most. Make your healing a priority. Be selfish. Define what you will not tolerate and stick to it. If someone has nothing to offer, you owe them nothing. Hurt people. No one is obligated to save you, and you don't have to save them either. You can't control others, but you can choose who to spend your time with. If someone loves you, it's because you are worthy of love, not because they're doing you a favor. Ask yourself, does this person make me happy? Today I feel free of my story with the beast. I don't care where he is. I don't lie awake wondering how he's doing. I don't seek revenge because he doesn't deserve another second of my precious time. And I say that without arrogance. It feels like Banshee has died. She had to burn down to ashes for Christy the writer to be reborn. The one who plays guitar, eats well, basks in the sun and under the insanely blue sky of her hometown. But the story isn't over. Healing continues. Even if the beast no longer touches me, not in songs, not in memories, not in nightmares, the work is now mine, to grow, to learn, to experience, to travel, to leave Ireland behind one step at a time. Today I am proud of myself. And if you too are a woman who loves too much, I want you to know that it is possible to walk away. I cried too. I swore I'd die of heartbreak, but I didn't. No one dies of a broken heart, and you won't be the first. You can escape the enchanted castle. You can let go of the beast who couldn't see your humanity. You can stop trying to save others and start saving yourself. You can give yourself the love you've always poured into everyone else. You can turn pain into art, tears into laughter. You will laugh again. You will believe again. You will love again sooner than you think. I promise.